we waited quite some time to release the 390, or we didn't wait to release it, but to develop it. Because many people asked us when the H90 and the Rust and the H190 came, the 360 looked a little bit different because it had an older display, and so would you make a new one with a new display and this and that. And we did not want to do that because we could have easily brought a new 360 out with a new display that looked like the other new ones. But when people make an investment of 5,000, 6,000 euros, we also have an obligation to these customers to take care of their investment. So we shouldn't bring out a product that wasn't a significant update, where there wasn't really a reason other than cosmetical, or that we needed a line with the same numbers in it. We think that was wrong. But when we made the 590 last year, we did a few things that was completely new. And one of the biggest steps in the 590 was the DA converter, which was made a little bit different than all our older DA converters. All the converters we had made inside our amps are separate up to the Mohican CD player was upsampling. There was a secret. Did Ben talk to you a lot about the DACs? Because otherwise I won't repeat it. No, good. All of our DACs were upsampling to a top secret sampling frequency. And that was a way we found to make really good DA converters at a reasonable price point. So we could also include DA converters in our integrated amps that was of very, very high quality, while at the same time not increasing the price too much. There's only one other guy who found this out, and he's called Paul Miller, and he works for HiFi News in the UK, and he's a measurement maniac. And he called me one Friday night because he's not shy either, and said, "Anders, are you doing such and such and such?" And yes, but please don't tell anyone. It was a very effective way of making good DA converters. When we made the Mohican CD player, we took the latest chips and the latest technology, but made it work specifically for 16-bit 44.1, and it never upsampled or changed the signal. So it was a non-upsampling or a bit perfect DAC in this Mohican CD player. When we finally did that, it's much more costly, it's much more expensive, and it's much more elaborate design to make it really 1644.1, not just seeming like it's 16-bit 44.1, but we don't know what's going on inside the DAC chip itself. When I took the Mohican and compared it to our HD30 reference DAC, they use the same DAC chip. It's very much the same implementation, except for the bit perfectness. I played a track using the Mohican CD, the Mohican DAC, and I sat down and listened. Yeah, I won't lean on them. This is a Yoast special. I listened and I thought, this sounds really good. Blah, blah, blah. It was Dead Can Dance, a live recording. And I said, okay, then I'll play just from the Mohican and bypass the external DAC and go straight to the amp. And I put it on and I went back to the sofa and said, wrong track. And I went back to change the track, but it wasn't the wrong track. It was the same track. There was just so much more information. So I was shocked, and I think Bent was a little bit surprised, at least, that the differences were that big. But he knew that it was going to be a big difference. After that, we set about making this into a big perfect DAC that would be big perfect regardless of sampling frequencies that comes into the DA converter. That is what we did for the first time in the 590. And now we suddenly had a piece of technology that would dramatically increase and improve the quality of a 360. So then we went on making the 390. The 390 has a DA converter inside that is very similar to the 590. It's the same principle, it's the same DAC chips. There are a few tweaks that I'll show you physically when comparing to the 590, why the 590 DAC is still better. And there are also some functions in the 390 that you don't have in the 590. To talk about the functionality, one of the specifics in the 390 is that you can play MQA on all digital inputs. So if you have a CD player like the Weekend, you can put on an MQA CD. They have a lot of that in Hong Kong, and when they don't protest, they play MQA CDs. And you can connect it with a coaxial or BNC output to the 390, and then do the second unfolding or full MQA decoding. Regardless of what you think about MQA, some people like it, and that's a good feature to have. The 590 only does MQA on the USB input. Other than that, it's very much the same DAC, apart from a couple of small things that I'll physically show you. The 390 is based on the 360, so the analog stage is more similar to the 360. There are small improvements along, so it sounds better than the 360 on analog inputs, but it's more similar. The biggest improvement inside the 390 is the digital section. That is greatly improved. Output power is the same. And if you can all step over here, and I'll just show you briefly. But please don't touch inside the 590 because it's powered on. If you look at these two, the topology and layout is pretty much the same. If you're looking or wondering where the sound engine is, it's actually quite humble. It's that blue little board here. That is the sound engine. It's become very much smaller over the years, but it holds the same thing. It used to be as big as that, but now it's much smaller. One of the reasons we made it smaller is that it's made of some slightly esoteric materials. And when we started selling a lot of Hegel in China, these materials, they were corroding. So after 2 years in Shenzhen in China, the sound engine was completely rotten. So we improved it and made a new version that is the Sound Engine 2, which sounds better. It gives us even higher damping factor, and it's smaller and it's completely encased, so it doesn't rot. If you look at these two amps, this is the extra transformer I talked to you about, who powers only the volume control and the DAC. And that's the same principle as in the 590. An obvious difference between the 590 and the 390 is that this chassis is all aluminium, and aluminium is not magnetic, so there's a lot less magnetic interference on the internal sections in the 590 compared to a 390. That is a big difference. Another thing you see on the DAC section is that they're shielded. These are the only pieces of steel inside. So they're physically shielded, so they get less radiation from the transformers and the output stages, because the signal is very delicate in the DAC, and also in the preamp. It's also encased below, so it's shielded from noise outside. Also, you obviously see this is a significant difference from a 390 up to a 590. There is a lot more power, and there's a lot more control in the 590. And possibly when you do the demo, you will realize that even though this is fantastic value for the money, this is Papa Bear. There is no doubt about it. Yes, of course, there's 50% more output devices here than in the 390. But the 390, it is a baby 590. That is what it is. And for 6,000 euros, it's silly to talk about value for money at 6,000 euros but it is fantastic value for money, the 390. It can power anything, so you don't need to go from a 390 to a 590 to power the speakers, unless you have something that's very particular. But the second somebody hears the difference, it's a type of difference that if you like wine, and somebody introduces you to a better wine than the €7 wine at the grocery store, that is proper hi-fi. When you go to a €20 or €30 wine, and that is a 390, and you're already at the level where that wine is so good that many people will just say, okay, this is my level. But when somebody then introduces you to a very, very, very fine wine, you'll experience those subtle differences in that wine. It's a little bit different experience. That is going from a 390 to a 590. And if you can afford it, some people will have a struggle to live without those little differences. Whenever they hear a 390, they will remember what the 590 did and cannot live without it. That is perhaps our hope. But it is also the truth. It's how it works. But this is a 390. Baby 590, many of the same qualities, just not quite. Going from a 360 to this, it's a big step. And this one is designed around the Blade 2s, which we have here. That's our main listening. We listen to other speakers as well, and it's a very neutral amp, so it works with virtually any speaker on the market, right? But the main listening on both of these amps are done on the Blade 2s. So it works really well on those.